Hello and welcome to Home Media Minefield presents Let's See What's Out There with a Hawkeye, a weekly live stream and podcast currently focused on Marvel's Hawkeye miniseries, which is available to watch on Disney+. In today's episode, we are going to have a spoiler-filled conversation around the fourth episode in the series, which is titled Partners. Am I right? That's the title. I wasn't asking a question. We are also likely to spoil other areas of the Marvel Cinematic Universe as well. So with the spoilers out of the way, my name's Keith Isles. I am an independent filmmaker, content creator, and lifelong enthusiast of film and television and related media. And for today's podcast, I'm really happy to be joined by a couple of guests. First up, my co-host on the Let's See What's Out There podcast, Pete Miley.
Hey everybody, how you doing?
All right, how's it over in New York City?
Well, actually, I'm not in New York today.
Where are you?
I am in beautiful Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
I am currently going to the PAX Unplugged board game convention.
Oh, wow.
Or
okay,
tabletop gaming convention is how I should say it.
All right. Yeah. Will there be LARPers there?
Oh, there will be. How many Elfiers have I already seen today? 3.
Right. Okay, interesting. Okay, well that's very cool. And I see, because you're in a public place, and we've moved to Plan B now with the in the world, so it's face mask time for you, yeah?
It is. But yeah, it's not an inconvenience for me. It just means you all don't get to see my crooked teeth. So there you go.
Oh, no, it means you're in disguise as your own superhero.
That's right.
Starfleet man.
Yeah. Cadet.
And talking of superheroes, we have our very own superhero joining us, as he is our comics aficionado and filmmaker in his own right. Welcome, Clive Ashenden. Hey, Clive.
Hey, bro.
Hey, bro. Oh, there you go, wearing your tracksuit mafia gear there for this show, yeah?
That's right, yeah.
Go closer. There we go. Tracksuit mafia Clive. I like
that is
it.
Awesome.
That's happy to be back in the quiver for this Hawkeye show this week. So.
Indeed. And look, I've got my Marvel mug now to
you know what you're missing,
to fit in with the theme, and I've got a little Marvel badge, but you can't really see that, to be fair. But yeah,
you should get that Thanos was right mug.
Well, yeah, yes, I know. Once I saw the episode, I did think, and also it would go with our branding, wouldn't it?
It would. It was a great purple.
Yeah, it would be very fun indeed. So, yes, okay. Well, if for anyone who's new here and found this stream, welcome. If you are watching us live, by all means, get involved in the live chat if you wish to. If you found this after the fact and you've still got comments or questions, please put it in the section down below, and always try and respond to everything. But yeah, take a look around the channel. We've so far done a live stream setup like this for all of the shows that Disney have put out based on the Marvel Cinematic Universe, starting right back with WandaVision. We've also done some on Star Trek, Star Wars, other movies. Recently did one on the film Duel by Steven Spielberg, where I had a guest who wrote the book about the making of that film on. So please check out other things on the channel. There are also reviews for physical media, Blu-ray, 4K, DVD, that kind of thing, product unboxings, etc. If you like that sort of thing, please give the video a thumbs up, consider subscribing to the channel, and as always, if you hit the bell icon, that will inform you as and when new things come out, because they can be random sometimes. So with all of that out of the way, I've already explained we're going to spoil this episode in our conversation. But before we get into this episode, though, I want to ask Clive, as he wasn't with us last week for this. So last week's episode, myself and Pete, I think, were on different sides of the fence with this one. Is that fair to say, Pete?
100%.
In so much as I actually really enjoyed the episode and found that the show is really working for me. Whereas I don't want to speak for Pete, but you were finding it a little bit tonally inconsistent and not as satisfying as you'd hoped. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I would say that I found it a very disjointed ride. And so it wasn't smooth for me. And it sort of took me out of it a little bit, is how I'd say.
Okay.
And that while I think that each part was okay, it didn't flow well.
No, and I think you made some very fair points as well. Please, anyone watching, by all means, go back and check out that episode after you've watched this one, obviously. But Clive, I just wondered, before we get into tonight's episode, I wondered where you were with it last week and, you know, whether you're still sort of on side with Hawkeye or whether it's not quite hitting the mark for you.
I found last week's episode tremendous fun. I mean, the word ride was used, and for me, it was a ride I just was happy to go along with. I thought it had some of the best action that I've seen in any of the Disney Disney Plus Marvel shows.
Yeah,
sure.
You know, there was some fantastic sequences in there. I mean, the word that comes to mind is romp. You know, and
yeah,
maybe, are there things you can point to and go, I wish they'd done that better, or not quite sure about that? Yeah, probably. But to be honest, it's the show I need right now. If you see what I'm saying, it's I'm enjoying. Perhaps it's early holiday spirits, but it's certainly it's working for me so far.
They've certainly launched it at the right time of year for us. Even more so when we get into tonight's episode. But I was just wondering, one of the things that bothered me last week, and I just wonder whether you had a take on it or whether I might have missed something. Myself and Pete might have missed something that you picked up on, maybe, but. Something that gave me a real problem. I obviously loved the car chase. I thought the car chase was fantastic. I thought the use of the trick arrows was fantastic. And I thought the way it was shot in that kind of Children of Men style, really.
Yeah, the 360 inside the car.
I really, really loved all that stuff. But the one thing that was really bugging me, and I'm not sure whether I've only watched it the once, so I've not gone back and double checked on this, but is Kate Bishop now a murderer? Because I am sure that one of the vans that was chasing with the tracksuit mafia with your bros in it, Clive, she fired an arrow, and I know obviously it's self-defense. I get this, but the van blew up and did like a somersault, and it wasn't like the A-Team. You didn't see anyone sort of staggering out of it. So I'm like, kill people? And if so, that wasn't addressed at all.
No, it wasn't. There was a beat, wasn't there? Like, I mean, the thing was that she doesn't know what she was firing. So, I mean, all right, she did kill people, but it wasn't like it was by accident. I don't know if that doesn't make any difference to them. They're dead, right? But
yeah.
And so it's manslaughter, not murder.
Yeah, that's right. Slash self-defense, But so that was in there. But I thought there was sort of moments when she sort of registered a bit of kind of like shock and wasn't quite, afterwards, Hawkeye was helping her, I think. But maybe I'm just.
Yeah. No, I'm very much nitpicking there. I understand that, but it was just something. You know how certain things sometimes bother you, and it was just something I was like, I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure, what I think there. So
No, I know what you mean, Keith. It's like in the recent Doctor Who Flux, how there were certain things, certain actions by the good doctor in that,
right.
where I was like, hang on a second, didn't they just do this thing, and then
Right.
that made me sad if that was the case. But
Okay. Obviously, I have no idea what you're talking about there, but I'm sure people watching out there will know exactly what you mean. So that's cool.
Yeah,
No,
I mean, obviously, people didn't come in expecting to have that spoiled, so I'm going to tread very lightly there.
whoops. No, I mean, obviously, had Hawkeye done it, had Clint done it, I wouldn't have batted an eyelid, because obviously there's been, that's kind of what his job was for a long time. And if it had been,
especially when he was in the Ronin guide, and the whole, the Matt Fraction, David Aja, graphic novel run. There's a reason it's called My Life as a Weapon, and Clint even says in this, I'm a weapon. I was a weapon. I'm not a hero. People would point me at someone, and then I would take people out.
Yeah.
And that's how we're introduced to him, right? We're introduced to him and it's like, do I take out Thor?
Yeah.
Or not? Right?
No, absolutely. No, you're absolutely right. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's fine. So we can get into this week's episode. This once again was directed by Burton Bertie, who we talked about last week, and the writing credits for this one are Heather Quinn and Erin Casino, both of which they've worked in the industry in various crew roles, but I wasn't able to find any actual writing credits for them, which is quite interesting. But obviously, good that Marvel are given opportunities here. But we usually do a little recap of the show, which Pete does for us. So, Pete, take it away.
Okay. Hawkeye and Bishop politely extricate themselves from the swordsman and Bishop's mom. Bishop's mom wants Hawkeye to keep Bishop safe. Hawkeye and Bishop have a margarita montage of planning in holiday times. Then Hawkeye and Bishop get the LARP Brigade to help them steal back their arrows from the police. Then they go to an apartment to find the missing watch, where they get interrupted by not just Echo, but also the Black Widow assassin. Credits.
Nice. Yeah, that pretty much sums it up, doesn't it? So,
yeah.
Because of course, yes, we get as a guest star in this episode, we get Florence Pugh reprising her role from Black Widow. Now, Black Widow, there's something we didn't do a stream for that. We haven't talked about that. Obviously, it's very connected with this series now. I just wondered, I have to say, from my point of view, I really enjoyed Black Widow. I thought it was a fantastic film, albeit long overdue. But, I do like the sort of spy thriller kind of movie that was. And I found it to be, okay, it's out of the main chronology, if you like, by going back and showing that character. But I like the way they kind of fleshed that out a little bit. And I just wondered, where do you guys stand before we get deep into this episode? Where did you guys stand with the Black Widow movie?
Okay, to be the other side to your coin, I hated the Black Widow movie.
It's a pattern here, Pete.
yeah. I will say that my main critiques with the Black Widow movie are they did the Star Wars thing where it's like, we had to do something awesome, so let's just redo what we did in another movie, straight down to like the floating surprise airship, right? Which was the first Avengers movie. And two, the whole thing like was supposed to be, in my mind at least, I'll say this, in my mind, we were supposed to get the sense from this that Natasha was the best spy in the world, and I did not get that sense from this movie. Okay. Instead, it was like, she was a reluctant spy. She had a lot of anger, but I don't know. It didn't feel like she had she didn't solve any of her problems by being spy, right? Or like being James Bond, or something like that. She solved all of her problems by blowing stuff up.
Right.
And it was like, like that's it, you could have replaced her with Captain America or with Thor or with the Hulk, right? And you wouldn't have gotten anything extra from her, right? Like it was all the same there. I also kind of felt like they wasted the David Harbour in it by just sort of making him be old and fat, and his character was I'm old and fat. So I was left wanting a lot more than I got.
Okay, Clive, what about you?
It's interesting you make those points, Pete. It's like you expecting it to be more spy-like. See, my take on Black Widow character wasn't that she was supposed to be the greatest spy in the world. It's that she's supposed to be is that she was an assassin. She's a reformed assassin. So it makes sense that she solves her problems by assassinating people, right? Assassinating them. Yeah. It's she's a spy in the James Bond sense of the word, where James Bond in his films rarely does any spy work, right? Except for the very early films. He's mainly just swans about and kills a bunch of people, and sort of he goes around, stirs up trouble, right? And then all the bad guys get annoyed and try and kill him, so he kills them. So it's there was a bit of crossover there, and I'll be honest, I like those movies, so I mostly enjoyed Black Widow. It didn't feel like it was doing anything new, so I agree with you on that sort of point. It felt very safe for the most part. Yeah. I mean, I was slightly disappointed. I had hoped, because I'm trying to remember which Marvel film it was now. When was it Iron Man 2 when we're first introduced to Black Widow?
It was, yeah.
Was it Iron Man 2 or was it Age of Ultron where we get that stuff, that flashback to Black Widow in the Red Room with Julie Delpy?
I think that was Age of Ultron.
I think that's Age of Ultron. Yeah.
Age of Ultron.
Yeah.
I was there was part of me was hoping we were going to get Julie Delpy in it,
right?
And I'm a big fan. But
yeah, that would have been great.
Yeah, but that didn't happen. But they did have Taskmaster, and I love Taskmaster, so that made me happy. Yeah, it was fine. I know what you mean, Pete. David Harbour could have done a lot more, but he was basically just there to be the joke, wasn't he? So, and he did it well.
Yeah, and I think he's great at that, but it was just I might be taking this far too personally as a man who has frequently had trouble putting pants on that he feels should fit, and so maybe it just hit too close to home for me, but it definitely took me out of it. Yeah.
Don't be so hard on yourself, Pete.
For me, it felt like
I'm being 100% honest. Yeah.
Yeah. For me, it felt like they were just doing the same bit we saw in Incredibles.
Exactly.
Yes. Yeah. There was that. One of the things, I mean, obviously we'll get onto Hawkeye because I don't want to. This is just a bit of an aside on Black Widow. But one thing that I don't know. I think it was set up, but I'm not sure that Kate Shortland quite paid it off in the film. But obviously, there's a lot of comments about, of course, the end is very over the top, and that there's the sort of ridiculous skydiving bit that she does. Yeah. But I kind of like the fact that earlier in the film she's watching Moonraker. Okay, we're talking about Bond references. She's watching Moonraker, and of course, the pre-credit sequence of Moonraker is like one of the best skydiving stunts ever. Where Bond is pushed out of the plane without a parachute, and gets and he has a fight with Jaws, and all that sort of stuff. And I just sort of felt that because nobody I've spoken to's really sort of picked up on that, and I just think, I don't think it was quite sold you know, the foreshadowing was there, but it was so subtle. She was so subtle with it that I don't think it actually paid off. But I don't know. I've always sort of read it that was kind of to do with that. But maybe,
so what I will say is that I missed that. I am going to go back and rewatch it and see if that changes things for me, because I do remember
I'm sure
that.
It won't. I'm sure
No.
It's a tiny detail.
I think that's a very good light to put it in, and I'm interested to dig into that more.
And the important thing is, you guys obviously both stayed for the post-credit scene of Black Widow, which sort of sets this up, right?
Exactly.
Did you see that?
Yes. This is where we're going to get into well, if we haven't already spoiled Black Widow, we're really going to spoil the post-credit scene now, aren't we? So
well, that's why I say that we're not only spoiling this episode, but we are going to probably spoil Marvel Cinematic Universe. But then the sort of person that's probably tuning into this, I would imagine, have probably seen quite a bit of the MCU before watching this. I would hope, but apologies in advance if we're spoiling it for people out there. But yes, absolutely. Sorry, were you going to make a point on that, Clive? Sorry.
No. It was just like before we get into it was all
right.
But that's fine. Yeah, cool.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, let's get into let's get into what we're 22 minutes in, and I appreciate we're here to talk about episode 4 of Hawkeye, and we haven't yet. So obviously, it picks up exactly where it left off last week. But I mean, how are you feeling about this episode, you guys?
Well, I took the last one first. Do you want to take this one first, Clive?
Sure. Okay. Well, obviously, last week was mostly all action, and this week was mostly all. It's like, and now we take a breath, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was one of those type episodes, and sometimes those episodes can be really dull if they're not done well. I can think of some other recent series where it's felt like filler, like okay, and we need to cover these beats. This one, maybe it's just the sheer force of personality of the leads. I just really enjoy seeing the Kate Bishop character and Hawkeye together. It's he might bristle at them being partners, but it really works. And just watching them kind of like hang out, bond, do a bit of leg work. I was surprised to see the LARPers back again, but that was quite fun. This. Oh yeah, I don't worry. I'll just break into the police evidence locker. It's no biggie. That was a bit that made me raise my eyebrows. But maybe that's how they do things over there. I don't know.
No.
Right.
So yeah, well, that's well. Yeah, but if you get shiny new LARPer costumes, then maybe you just got to know the wrong price.
Here's what I'll say about that. As a New York City resident, I 100% believe that there are representatives, law enforcement, who would do it for a costume. What they would not do is discuss it in front of 15 other people who are just there in Central Park. That is a backroom hush-hush discussion that you wouldn't even have with your 4 closest friends around.
Yeah. So Pete, on that note, then, I mean, as a sort of very general thing, are you still in the same sort of place this week that you were last week with this as a piece of entertainment?
Yeah, I am still getting whiplash from scene to scene as my head is like, what are we doing now? Right? And like each scene I still think is good on its own. But just the transitions between them have me sort of like I haven't found the tone of this thing yet. Right? I don't understand it yet. It is it's still very disjointed for me. And like when I look at different bits of it, I think like, oh, it's a very nice picture that they've drawn there. But then put side to side, I guess I'm maybe to say it in a nerdy way, I'm not getting the full 24 frames per second so that it looks like a motion picture in my eyes. Right?
I like it.
Can I say it that way? Like
I
I
love
feel like I'm only
that way
picking
of
up
putting it.
5 frames. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love that
And
way of putting it.
and so I'm always going like, wait, I'm missing something here, right? Like the going from sorry, I don't want to keep calling her Bishop's mom, but I can't remember the character name. Going from the mom talking to Hawkeye about, like, I've lost too much. Don't let her get hurt, which I thought was a great scene. To then him, strapping frozen margarita bags onto his body, and I was like, oh, that's hilarious, right? And I love that. To then them drinking all of those pitchers of margarita, I was like, oh, these are like such fast turns. I don't know. It's weird for me.
Uh-huh. Yeah. No, I mean, and I think that's valid. Much as I'm enjoying it, I think you're right about tonal shifts is definitely a very valid thing with this. I actually think I was, obviously before coming on, I was thinking about this, and I think if it wasn't for the two leads of this show could be a train wreck.
And
But I do think that both of them work, and of course, writing's involved in this as well. So I'm not going to say it's just down to their performances, obviously, but they just work so well together. I think and I just find something really endearing about it all. And it's cool. We've got a middle-aged guy and a young woman in her early 20s, and there's nothing weird going on. It's there's nothing dodgy there, but they partner really well together, and I just really like how these characters bounce off one another, and how it works like that. I mean, Clive, do you think? I mean, I know you like both of these actors as well, because we've already talked about that. But do you think that is forgiving some of the possibly dodgy tonal shifts and stuff that Pete's referring to?
Well, see, I'm kind of, I agree that there are tonal shifts, but I feel like, having watched all the episodes so far, that it's quite consistent in in how it's shifting tone, if you see what I mean. So having kind of got into the rhythm of the show, it doesn't bother me. Also, it probably helps that I'm a fan of other shows. I already mentioned it once, I'm going to do it again, like Doctor Who, where they're constantly shifting from kind of serious, got to deal with this threat, to like bantery humor, to this other thing, and it's all quite fast, and it's sort of, so it's fun. It's like what seems to Pete like very choppy, for me is I'm just like I'm watching a montage, if you see what I mean. But there was a montage in the show, wasn't there? But
Yeah.
gotta have a montage. So yeah, no, I'll be honest, it's not bothering me. So your mileage may vary, and clearly it's not quite working for Pete. You're more on the fence, and I'm like, yeah, bring it on. So
No, well, I mean, I say on the fence. I'm actually really enjoying this show. I'm having a lot of fun with this, a lot more than I had with Loki. I'm not gonna I'm not gonna lie. I didn't, I got really fed up with Loki. But this I'm enjoying a lot. So it's a bit of a breath of. I'm finding it a breath of fresh air, actually. This show, very welcome breath of fresh air. But like you said, it might have something to do with the time of year and when it's set and all of that sort of stuff as well, potentially. I don't know.
Yeah, what I'm picking up from you guys is that some shows have a lot of fan service in them, and this show seems to have a lot of holiday season service.
Yes.
And so fans of Christmassy things are getting much more out of this than I am, as I am a confirmed Grinch who is not a fan of the season, and would be much happier if we just, removed all of Whoville. But yeah.
Yeah. No, I hear what you're saying. I mean, yeah, I used to do a podcast called Movie Heaven, Movie Hell, and one
A great
Christmas.
podcast.
Yeah, well, thank you. But it is available on all good podcasting apps. But yeah, but one Christmas some years ago now, we did a Christmas episode, and my movie heaven was It's a Wonderful Life. I love that film, and I just the fact that it's referenced in this, and quite poignant as well with kind of what Clint's going through. I just thought that whole thing was a fabulous scene. Which again started very light, with the teaching to flick the dime to do silly things, which was fun, and then it
was a great scene,
and it gets very serious when we get into talking about Natasha and and the fact that he was the Ronin.
But you know what that reminds me of, though, Keith.
What's that?
It reminds me of it reminds me of Jaws. It reminds me of where they're sitting around, they're drinking, they're showing each other the scars, it's all laughing, and then suddenly it's like, oh, what's that one? And then it's like the SS Indianapolis story, right? So
a very good comparison. I love that.
Sometimes these structures work for a reason, right?
Yeah,
so.
That explains why I love the scene so much, because anything that's like Jaws is amazing, and obviously It's a Wonderful Life playing on the TV as well. It couldn't have been more perfect. But I do like the fact that as characters, they did get into it a little bit in this episode, meaning that, yes, it's all been fun banter and one-uppery and all of that sort of thing up to that point. But, we do have a serious scene that harps back to Hawkeye, to Clint Barton's character, which, as many said, were in the movies was actually somewhat overlooked. And, I think it's really nice that we're sort of getting to delve a bit more into his psyche in this episode. And again, by both actors, very, very well performed, that scene. I almost found it quite moving, actually, but maybe that's just me. I don't. It's kind of, within the ridiculousness that it's all set, but yeah.
I mean, isn't this exactly what we were hoping for in some ways from when we heard we were getting these Disney Plus shows, right? It's that there's a certain amount of things you have to do in kind of a blockbuster action thing, right?
Sure.
And that means that there's often less chances, even when the films suddenly start to bloat out to like 2.5 hours or whatever Eternals was. I haven't seen that one yet, but I know, shocking. It's still need to get to that one, but generally, like, there's not. They're worried about losing the audience, so they don't pause, and we don't get those character scenes. And this is exactly this sort of like, and now we're taking a beat, and we're finding out more about the characters, and they're finding out about each other, right? Yeah. And it doesn't feel forced. So for me, that it works very well. So I think the other thing you were saying, you didn't like Loki, and you've been very clear about that, Keith. I enjoyed it more than you did, but
I thought it started off great, but it didn't stick the landing for me. Let's put it that way. So yes, Doctor Who. It turned into Doctor Who.
It did, and that's great. But no, that as a show was trying to do a lot of things and keep a lot of balls up in the air, but it also had a lot of different viewpoint characters. Whereas this show, it's pretty much sticks with the two, right? I'm trying to think if we've seen any scenes where it's not them, and the only ones is with Echo. I think with her story, so it just kind of it keeps it Am I wrong, Pete? I'm just trying to think.
We do get some stuff that's like between the swordsman and Armand.
Oh, okay, cool.
Mm-hmm. Yes, in the first episode. Yeah.
Sorry, I don't want to be pedantic.
No. I think we're just looking for accuracy, really. But generally, it keeps that sort of clean A story with just a few kind of like offshoots, right? Whereas some of the other shows have felt much more like, and now we're going over to follow this person, and now we're following this person.
Yeah.
And you can do that, and they're both equally valid ways of doing it, but it just sort of means this one kind of goes down easier, if you see what I mean, because you know where you are, if that makes sense.
And I think it's benefiting from having, like we've said, two great actors. You know, having Jeremy Renner and Haley Steinfeld. They're crushing it, and there's like no way around it. And they're both very compelling to watch on screen. So it's like a winning formula to have great characters and then leave them on screen. Portrayed by great actors. It's really hard to mess that up.
Yeah. Well, they've also had the balance here quite, or so far. Obviously, we've got two more episodes to go in this mini series, but they've had the balance quite right, because as Clive rightly said, last week we had a very action-packed episode. This week is more of a character episode, although it does. It does have some quite good action beats coming up as well in this. But also in terms of character development, I mean, a lot changes in this episode in their relationship as colleagues, as becoming. I mean, the title says it all, right? Partners. I am right. It's kind of funny, but also thematically it completely works as to where this episode ends, right?
Yeah, totally agree. I also think maybe we haven't said enough about one of the like very end where Hawkeye cuts her loose from the balcony, right? And that scene in comparison to the scene from Endgame where he has to let go of Natasha, like just being able to like play with that and have that sort of full circle moment for him, where he knows that letting go is the right thing to do in this instance and it feels good, versus the last time he did it where letting go was what he had to do and it didn't feel good. So I think it's got beautiful beats in it. It's really well done.
Well, last time didn't she let go, if you see what I mean?
He had to let her go, I thought.
I'm trying to remember now. I thought she.
He didn't want to, but yeah,
he didn't want to let her go, and she was like, "Let me go." So I think there's a bit where she lets go her hand, but he's still holding on to her. And she like wriggles out. Whatever.
I mean, I think one of the things that's so nice about this is and the way this episode was structured and written is that didn't, obviously, yes, this is filled with references and Easter eggs and sort of mirrors to other movies and series, and like you've rightly said, that obviously mirrors exactly what happened in Endgame to an extent. But what was great here was everything, like the having It's a Wonderful Life on the TV, which is basically, they showed the end scene, where, oh God, I'm going to spoil that movie as well, but where basically George in that film sees a life without his family, and his wish is to have his family back, and that's what we see at the end. And that's kind of, again, that echoes sort of what happened with Clint, right? Because immediately after that, a great sound design bit again, he takes the hearing aid out and they fade down the audio, which I love it when they do that. But he then, you see him sort of dreaming, and you see the again footage from Endgame where he loses the family with the blip, with the snap, and it's kind of, he was without them for 5 years, and it sort of mirrors in some respects George's journey in It's a Wonderful Life, and I'm obviously, these things, they're all done intentionally, of course, right? But
Keith, remind me of the bit in It's a Wonderful Life where George Bailey goes around and kills a load of people with a samurai sword. Did I nod off during that bit?
No,
was that...
without the killing, but yes.
Wow.
But do you know what I mean? I'm sure. I mean, these things.
I do.
You're both filmmakers, so you know as much as I do that when you have other media playing within the film, it's done for a reason, right? It's not just there just because there's a Christmas movie, whack it on. It's done with full intention, and I'm sure that that's kind of
and that's his end goal, isn't it? That's his end goal, to be reunited with his wife and kids for Christmas.
Exactly. Exactly. So look at you, got Pete cracking up now. I could see it. I could just, even though I can't see his face because of the mark, I can just tell. But yeah, no, and obviously leading to the, of course, we've jumped to the end with that whole reference to Natasha and whatever. But I feel like it was, my point is what I'm saying here, not very well, I guess. But my point is, I think it was very well set up in this episode, structurally, in the writing. Is that fair?
100% agree. 100% agree.
Yes. Yes,
you just didn't like my reference point.
Oh no.
I thought your reference point was brilliant.
But that's in the color version.
Yeah. Oh gosh, I would love to see Jimmy Stewart with that Ronin haircut too.
Don't ruin it, Pete. Don't ruin it. Anyway, so so lots of questions here, lots of things being set up that obviously we hope will get paid off within the next 2 episodes. It's kind of scary to think that we're way over halfway through this now, and we've only got the 2 episodes to kind of wrap everything up and resolve this and make it a Christmas present.
I'm not worried about that though, because they've been moving so fast, with like such rapid changes. I think that the way they've set it up is that they could literally, turn on a dime and fix major parts of this in 5 minutes. They could fix all of the outstanding issues next episode, right? And then still have one more episode just to do Christmas stuff. So, and I don't think that would be like an out of place with how the show is being written.
Okay. So what are you both questions then? So what are you both, Eleanor and Jack? Okay. Are they, obviously we see that Eleanor gets a call from somebody. How, because they kind of keep flipping this between us being with Kate, thinking that Jack is a bad guy and behind this, and they kind of juxtaposed that this week, didn't they, with the misquoted Forrest Gump and the little Christmas dance and the more cute side, and then we saw that Eleanor is the one receiving a phone call or making a phone call to somebody and seems a bit more nefarious. So what sort of thoughts and speculation do you have around those guys before we get to other reveals?
I think my speculation is that her mum is just her mum, right? She's just concerned and she's just there as part of the stakes. The fact that she's played by a very good actress just helps to sort of up that thing. And then they've been doing a bit of playing as to whether the Jack character's a good guy or a bad guy, even though if you're into the comics at all, we know he's the swordsman in the comics. There's swords everywhere. He's been very secretive, and then as part of the legwork, then we find that he's supposedly the CEO of this firm that's a front for the tracksuit mafia. So, but then on the other hand, we have this kind of like dad joke side, doing the dancing, where he just seems like, genuine about, the sort of like, oh, your family making fun of you. That's so, they're trying to have it both ways. So it's possible that, that we find out that it's all a bit of a red herring, and he's just been like used as a dupe. He doesn't know he's being used.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I mean? But then there's all this. But then the moment you start thinking that, you start, well, what's he doing in this dodgy auction and all this sort of stuff? There's just it feels like there's too much bad stuff for them to suddenly pull a switcheroo there. But you never know.
Mm-hmm. What about you?
I think that you've sort of hinted at it, Keith. I think the reveal is going to be that we're meant to think that Jack is the bad influence on the mother. But what we're going to see is that the mother is the bad influence on Jack. And that I wouldn't go so far as saying he's a dupe, but one of the early scenes we got was the mother arguing with our mom, right? Yeah. And then our mom shows up dead.
Yeah.
So I think they've laid groundwork there for that to happen. Clive, you're more familiar with the source material than I am, but isn't the swordsman sort of a someone who goes between being a villain and a hero?
Yeah, in the comics, he's sort of involved in training Hawkeye.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah,
at one point. So there's a bit where they first show, and it's kind of, and obviously, we start with this sort of the cliffhanger where he's got a sword to his throat, and it's kind of like, and then he like recognizes him, but he doesn't recognize him as like, he only recognizes him after after Mum goes, we've got an Avenger in our living room, and he's like, oh yeah, you're Arrow guy or whatever he calls it.
Yeah. I do like the way Jeremy Renner plays the constant thing about Clint Barton not wanting to be famous, basically, and everywhere, and he just hates it when anybody recognizes him, and which makes sense because he spent years being a covert operator, right? So,
but also no one gets his name, and it's this whole thing about branding as well, where Kate is like, oh, you've got to get a better costume, and keeps trying, that whole bit last week, which I enjoyed, where she sketched out like a version of the classic like Hawkeye costume with the H on the forehead. He's like, no, I'm not wearing that.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. What is it? Hot Velma will divorce me. I always forget the wife's name. It's always like Hot Velma in my head, but that's my own problem, obviously.
And Linda Cardellini.
Yes, or Laura Barton, isn't it? Laura, yes. So on that note, that lovely note, let's talk about, because obviously you see her in this episode and they have a conversation, and she's done some digging, right, and found out some information relating to this mystery watch. And as a man myself who likes watches, I'm kind of intrigued about what's special about this Rolex, other than the fact it's a Rolex, and sort of what the mystery is behind that. Do you guys have any thoughts or theories there?
I thought it was. Sorry, I just assumed those are the watches from Endgame that allow time travel.
Oh, right. Okay. Maybe that's right then. I don't know the answer to that. Maybe I thought it looks like an ordinary sort of Rolex watch, which I'm assuming is like a bit of a Bond gadget or something. But it's the time travel device, was it, from Endgame?
Sorry, there's some background noise, but yeah, that's what I think it is. I might be wrong. I haven't looked at anything online. It's just when I saw that, I was like, oh, that's the watch that like they're using in Endgame to travel, to time travel. And so, yeah, that's the device that Tony Stark came up with.
Interesting, because it didn't actually. I mean, the prop didn't actually look like that to me. It just looked like a watch, you know. But maybe it is. Clive, have you got any theories on this, or do you know anything about that?
Well, I mean,
interesting.
It's a MacGuffin, isn't it? You know, it's the thing. It's the thing that they need to get right in order to move things along. And obviously, you know, this has been since episode 1. It was the thing that the tracksuit mafia went in to steal from the auction, right? Which kind of kicked everything off. There was a whole bit about this, about how Clint needs to get the watch back because it belongs to someone whose identity will be compromised if it gets into the wrong hands.
Right.
So for me, the question is not some. I don't. So you could be right, Pete. It might have some special properties to the watch itself, but I thought it was more about what it conceals, or who it could lead to. You know, whether. You know, I've seen all kinds of wild speculation online about that it's sort of somehow connected to old man Steve Rogers, you know, and would reveal his whereabouts or something like that, or Nick Fury, or it would reveal that you know, the Nick Fury on Earth is actually a Skrull, or it would. But then, you know, the one that maybe makes sense to me, I thought it was kind of interesting. We've been getting these kind of hints that Linda Cardellini's character, Laura Barton, has a past, right? Like, how did she meet Clint?
Yes.
You know, and this idea that maybe she has a past as a government operative. So maybe he just needs to get it for that. But then, why is the tracksuit mafia or the Kingpin possibly after this? So you feel like it's got to involve something.
Yeah. Well, maybe it's I was gonna say maybe it's Star Tech or something. Then sorry, Stark Tech, not Star. Wrong universe. Sorry, Stark Tech or something. But I don't know. The thing is with it being Laura's watch is it looks like a gent's watch. It doesn't look like the female version of that watch. So, but yes, I was going to ask about. I mean, there's sort of two questions there. There's one about the watch, and then there's also the one about Laura herself. And is there?
Maybe I'm just confusing the two things there. But then the question is the watch actually a watch? Right? Is the watch just, you know, or is it about the watch? Maybe I've watched too many spy movies in my life, clearly. But is the watch actually a watch? Is it a watch which has kind of special properties like Pete was suggesting, or does it like contain like a bit of microfilm with something in it, or you know, like something like some kind of code etched on the back of the watch or something? I don't know. I'm just wildly speculating. That's what we're doing, right?
Yeah, no, that's good. It's good. I mean, hey, if anybody out there, put it in the comments if you've got any ideas, you know. So, sorry, Pete, were you going to add something?
It is a time travel watch. In my headcanon, Echo is trying to get it so that she can go back and save her father.
I love that. Okay, I love that. That would make a lot of sense as well in the for the motivations.
It makes sense for her, but why does Clint particularly need to get it then?
It's leftover Stark Tech.
Paradox. Yeah, I was going to say no. It'll be a paradox though, because if she goes back in time to save her dad, she'll kill Ronin, which we're assuming that's him, right? So he won't exist anymore. Although that's not how it works in the MCU, is it?
No, it gets split into another branch of the multiverse or something.
Yeah. Oh, I love these
take her away
conversations. They're great, aren't they? Okay, that's cool. But yeah, I don't know. Laura Barton, yeah, obviously before she became the wife and mother, she would have had a past, yeah. So, and it was never. Well, in fact, doesn't Tony Stark say something like when they first meet her, she's obviously an agent or something, right? When they meet in Age of Ultron, because just because of the fact that he never knew about her, and we never knew this about Hawkeye. So,
well, she's got foreign language skills.
Yes. So she can. And she's got, and she was able to sort of find stuff out. But, well, hey, she's resourceful. I suppose that's nothing.
Well, she's got Clint's login to the Avengers computer, or whatever it is.
This is true. Okay, well, that sort of also brings us to another bit of subplot then. So we got the watch is one thing. The other thing is we've discovered in this episode that the trick arrows they need to be collected, right? Because the shafts he doesn't have a never-ending supply of this stuff now. I assume this is since the Avengers place got destroyed in Endgame, right? That's probably where they were produced or something. But
this was a bit thin.
Yeah,
wasn't it? It was like, oh, I've got more trick heads, but I don't have the shafts. It's like, can you not make more shafts? What's so special about them?
About them? Yeah.
Which part's going to be more difficult to manufacture? The pin particles or the shaft?
Yeah. Well, this is what I was thinking. I was confused about this. If there were some unused ones, like that were in police storage, which could be dangerous, I get that.
Yeah,
that's like part of in the same way you want to get the Ronin costume out of the way. But it's like, oh, okay, all right. If that's what we're going with, I'm like, fine, I guess.
Also, as someone who has shot bow and arrow, they sell shafts without arrowheads. So, like, why wouldn't that be a standardized size or something easily modifiable?
Maybe because he's Hawkeye, he's worried that if he goes to buy some, he might get shafted. Sorry. Anyway, I'll allow the tumbleweed to fly through. Now, Pete's gone. So
I'm shaking the camera. I apologize.
That's all right. So this bit we all agree is a little bit weak then in this bit of storyline, yeah. Just a little.
Yes.
Also, I have a question, just because I'm always looking for Easter eggs, but obviously I don't know I can always find Easter eggs that are either to other movies or to other areas of the MCU, but the actual source material, the comic book stuff, I'm just not well enough versed in that, and I always admit that up front. But one thing I was curious about, so Wendy, who is the LARPA police, the LARPA cop that's willing to take these arrows from the evidence locker or whatever to give him. She mentions that her wife gave her a particular bag and it had bombshell on it, and they called her bombshell. Is that relating to another Marvel character, or is that just is that sort of an Easter egg or a reference, or is it just something cute?
I think it's just a cute thing. There was plenty of like comic Easter eggs, all the stuff about boomerang arrows and the coin trick stuff. That's all from the Matt Fraction comic.
Right. Right.
You know, it's interesting as a reader of the comic. They've slightly flipped the Kate Bishop Hawkeye thing, where in the comic Hawkeye is trying to convince her that trick arrows are cool, and she's really kind of like, oh, I don't know about it. And in this, and in the show, it's like it's the young Kate Bishop character who's kind of like, oh, you should have some boomerang arrows, and he's like, yeah, that seems like a stupid idea.
Well, I mean,
so they just sort of flip it around, but.
Yeah, it is a stupid idea, but then having seen his other trick arrows, it's not the most stupid thing, is it, out of all of them? But so did they? If they switch the characters, does that mean then that in the comic book, in the Mac Fraction comic book, it's Hawkeye that blows up a van of tracksuit mafia?
It doesn't scan. Well, he kills quite a lot of tracksuit mafia, if I remember rightly.
But then they have the car chase. I thought the car chase was lifted from the comics. Have I got that wrong? I might have.
It could be.
Right.
There's a lot of action in there, and I'll be honest, it's been a while since I've read it. So there's certain things where I'm like, oh yes, I remember that. But yeah, possibly. But I can't give you a definitive answer on that one.
Okay. So unless I'm missing something out, obviously we've talked about the watch, we've talked about Laura Barton, we've talked about the trick arrows, we've talked about the wonderful "It's a Wonderful Life" scene. So
we touched on. Do we get into the Yelena thing, or
but that's what I'm saying. So we've got up as far as them breaking into the apartment and then discovering that that's Echo's apartment, right? And she has a list of Hawkeye's children, right? And has obviously the watch. That's where they trace the watch to, right? And there's obviously some tech in the watch then for them to trace it, right? Because if it was just a mechanical Swiss, luxury watch, it wouldn't have tracking information. So clearly the watch is something else.
Well,
so
that's what you think, Keith, that the people at Rolex are tracking you all the time.
Well, maybe. But yeah, so okay, so so we get it. So it's Echo's apartment, right? That and by the way, I love the way Kate gets into the apartment with helping the old man with the groceries. I just like the fact that Clint just hated that. I don't know, that just kind of made me smile. That was the typical sort of buddy dynamic, wasn't it? I just thought that was again, both of them played it so well. But that's what gets us into the apartment. And so at the same time as she is attacked by Echo, Hawkeye is attacked by, well, at this point, a masked assailant that he assumes is Echo, right?
Yeah.
I've got that right? Because I've already seen it once, so I'm trying to just do this from memory.
Yeah.
And then we have the funny beat where Kate goes to help him and gets stuck on the on the fly line, right? On the wire across. So they get stuck halfway. But then this is when it gets serious, isn't it? So we have that humor beat, we have a load of fight action, and she uses one of the trick arrows to break it up, doesn't she? There's one that kind of like sends a shock wave that disrupts everything, right?
Yeah, it's basically it's like a stun arrow or whatever you want to call it. Yeah.
Right. Okay. And then we get the reveal that it's Yelena that's attacking Clint, obviously as a result of at the end of Black Widow being told that Clint's responsible for the death of Natasha, right? And what happens? Does Echo just get knocked out at the end there? Because Are they working together or are they independent? That's something that wasn't clear to me.
No, they're independent because at some points they were
fighting
each other, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not.
Yeah, the way that I read that was
case, in that case, then, if the theory that Echo is working for Kingpin is correct, that means that Yelena then is not working for Kingpin, but she's working for the Julia Dreyfus character, who I've totally forgotten the name of.
Valentina Allegra Dufontaine.
Right.
Is that
right.
how you say your name?
Yeah.
Valentina, anyway.
Valentina. Or call me Val, as she says. Yeah,
Val.
But yeah, so so I don't know. Thoughts. I'm sorry, I'm just kind of saying the plot now, which isn't particularly helpful. But yeah, how are you guys feeling about this and the ending? And we're leading up to what you were talking about earlier, Pete, about the sort of mirroring the having to let Natasha go scene, and I think they even play a music beat there, which is similar to the score in Endgame. So there's that's another one of those references. But yeah, thoughts on this, guys?
Well, I mean I like that after we've had the story about which Clint tells about the shot I didn't take, right?
Yes.
How he met Black Widow. That that Kate gets her own the shot I didn't take, right? Where she has, she doesn't kill, she doesn't shoot Yelena, she lets her go. So
maybe if she was in a van with a load of other people, it would have been fine, right? No, sorry, I've got to let that go. Sorry.
But but perhaps that's the start of a beautiful friendship, and they just don't know it yet.
Yeah.
Ooh, I'm all in on that show. I want to watch that show. 20 episodes a season. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because Yelena's another great, great character, great actor.
I agree on both comments. Yeah. She was, you couldn't help but like her in Black Widow. I mean, I do like the fact that she takes the mickey out of Natasha in Black Widow about the pose. Yeah. Yet she totally does it in this as part of her fight style. Did you notice that? Which I'm sure is intentional again.
Well, she found herself doing it at the end of Black Widow, didn't she? She
does, but then she says something like, "Oh, gross, never again," or something, doesn't she? She makes some comment after it in Black Widow. I remember she sort of says something, and but she was using it there blatantly. I guess the motivation's different now, though, right? Fair enough. Well, any other?
To answer your question,
sorry, go for it.
No, I'm sorry. We have a little delay. I think. I apologize.
No, go for it, though.
I was gonna say about the having these two characters, Echo and Yelena, in one scene. I thought was a lot of fun, and it's a fight scene that we don't often get to see in Marvel, and so I thought it was new and different, and I really liked it, and I'm really looking forward to what next week has to bring. Even though what my worry is that it's going to be another sharp turn, and we're not going to find out what happens. Similarly to how, Kate Bishop was supposed to be at a police station at some point in the past 2 days, and that is just totally gone.
That's very true, because she rings the or she gets the call from Detective Cottle or whatever the character is, yeah, and she was supposed to go in and see him, right? And that's true. They didn't follow up on that, did they?
Absolutely, and it's just gone.
It was on the to-do list that they make up when they're drunkenly when they drink all those.
What a great scene!
And that whole are you sure that's a dry erase marker? And she's just scribbling all over the glass on the poster.
I'm so glad you brought that up. Yeah, again, that made me laugh. I like the because he was so casual about it, and she'd clearly been there was quite a lot of stuff on that board. So she'd clearly been enthusiastically doing this for several minutes prior. And the way he just says it, and it's like, this is what's great. She's so skilled and so smart, yet makes silly mistakes like that. And I just, that made me laugh. I thought that was, and the timing of it was beautiful. I thought the comic timing there was fantastic. Yeah, but you're right. That's on the list of things to do. Yes, it is. So cool. All right. Well, any other? I mean, obviously, it ends for all this comedic banter and action scene and all this sort of stuff. It does end fairly serious, doesn't it? With him telling her, "That's it. It's now got serious. They've sent a Black Widow assassin to so she needs to go, and their partnership is over, right? And that's where it ends. Yeah. And again, I thought, I didn't want the episode to end there. I wanted to see more, which is obviously a good thing, right? So, thoughts?
Yeah. Well, it seemed inevitable that Clint was going to sort of try and cut her loose at some point, because he didn't want her to get hurt. He's tried to pull that move once already in a sort of like offhand way, and now he's serious, right? Now it's life or death.
Promise to her mom.
So yeah, exactly. So exactly, Pete. Yeah. There's only one. I'm enjoying it lots. I'm really interested to see where it goes next. My only worry is that essentially we've now introduced these two characters, Echo and Yelena, who are very similar. Now that makes for one really good scene, right? Where it's understandable that Clint would think that Yelena was Echo, because they're both like super competent, like assassin ladies. So I know they have different backgrounds and slightly differing abilities, but essentially they're just really good at fighting and really good at killing. Mm-hmm. So the worry is that what differentiates them in the story thing, because they both have the same goal. So I guess that they're just going to try and get us to a bit where they're facing off against each other, maybe. But my worry is that what was really interesting about Echo, it now gets slightly lost because we've got Yelena as well. Mm-hmm. Now I'm glad we've got Yelena, because I love Florence Pugh. I think it'd be really interesting to see what she brings to the show. I just hope that the writers it doesn't get muddy. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. With these two characters that could, on the face of it, like be performing very similar beats, I guess. Mm-hmm.
And I know that Echo is going to have her own show coming up at some point, right? Which, I don't know whether that'll be a prequel or a sequel. Who knows? But yeah, cool. Any what about you, Pete? Any sort of final thoughts?
I came into this having collected my thoughts and saying like, I'm still kind of down on this episode and the series in general, just based on the pacing and sort of the tonal shifts. But having talked it over with you guys now for the past hour, I'm like, no, you know what? I really liked this episode.
Yay!
There was a lot of good stuff in here, and there was more good than bad.
Oh, that's great.
The podcast like we can nitpick on the bad, like the LARPers and and their arrow collection methods. But you know what? Like, I think for all the character stuff that's in here, this episode deserves a big thumbs up. And like you said, this episode makes you excited to see the next one.
Definitely. Oh, I'm liking that really positive note to close out on that. That's fantastic. So yeah, unless you got anything else to add, we'll just do our where people can find us part. Yeah.
Yeah, Pete said it all. Let's end there.
All right. So Pete, where can people get in touch if they want to agree
If
or
you're watching
disagree.
this live, or if you're watching this the weekend that it comes out, I'm at PAX Unplugged in Philadelphia. I'll probably be in the free gaming area. Just look for this face and come by and say hello. Otherwise, you can find us on the Let's See What's Out There podcast, LSWOT Cast, on all of the social medias, and lswotcast@gmail.com. Thank you very much, everyone.
Fabulous. Are you going to be LARPing while you're there, Pete?
Gaming, I'm not LARPing.
Gaming, not LARPing. Okay, fair enough. Fine line, yeah.
Judgment against the LARPers, but I don't have the commitment, nor am I able to steal arrows to get a good costume.
There we go. That sounds fair enough. And Clive, where can people find more of your work?
Well, if people want to check out my work as a filmmaker, my most recent short films can be found on Vimeo. Just search for my name, Clive Ashenden, and you'll find my most recent work there. And my most recent podcasting is mainly on this channel. So do go and check all the rest of the stuff on the Home Media Minefield channel and like and subscribe and hit that bell icon.
Oh, thank you, Clive. You're always welcome.
Clive, when are you doing your gritty reboot of It's a Wonderful Life?
Can I? If you do that, Clive, can I play George?
Of course. Well, you know, that's who I was picturing when I was picturing George Bailey with the samurai sword. You know, like taking out like Potter's goons. You know, that's what I was. You know, definitely.
It sounds like a dream role. You know, sounds amazing. So I'll be up for that. So anyway, thank you for watching this. As I said, please do check out more of the work on the channel. I've just got a message actually from Pete saying I need to talk about some of my other work. So yeah, in terms of my other work, I have another YouTube channel called British Isles. That's EYLES, as in my last name. You can find some short films that I've made on there. Any feedback welcome. Please check it out and subscribe to that also. And I am currently working on a feature film which I hope to have out next year, which is called Car Cam. And it's a psychological thriller that all takes place from the point of view of a car-mounted dash cam. And that's really all I can say about that at this point. But there will be more.
Is the trailer out, Keith?
Not really. No, there isn't official. We did a proof of concept trailer which is knocking around, but that's on a private link, and it's, to be honest, it's not polished enough for me to want to sort of put that out there full time, but it is listed.
That's what I was asking about.
Yeah, it is,
because I saw that and it is amazing. It is
great. Liked it? Oh, okay.
I love it.
It's good, Keith. It
is really good, and it is the perfect audition tape for your George Bailey Ronan crossover. Yeah.
Oh dear. Right. Okay. Well, maybe sometime soon that'll be available. But
on that bombshell.
Yeah, exactly. But for now, yeah, please check it out. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. And we will all see you next time for the next episode of Hawkeye, on the next Let's See What's Out There. So bye for now.